What was your high school's wildest NSFW scandal? Dubbed the urinator, they kept finding urine puddles in the school hallways, stairwells, and the handicap elevator. The school had cameras everywhere, but they never saw someone just peeing in the hallway. No one knew how it kept happening without someone being caught. Turns out someone was peeing in a Gatorade bottle, and in between classes when halls were full they would just randomly spill it somewhere and no one around them noticed. The method only got found out when the bottle with some leftovers was found in a trash. But they still never found who actually was doing it. The football star at my high school was accused of sexually assaulting a 4-year-old child and went to jail for it based off very little evidence. He was sentenced to 25 years. It was my junior year. And it was his senior year. He had a full ride scholarship to play football and he, along with everyone else, really thought he'd make it to the NFL. He served 3 years of that sentence when the county's new DA looked over his case and saw that there was basically no evidence. So he was released. This was in summer 2017 and he was officially exonerated last year. Turns out it was his best friend, who looked just like him and lived with him. Who did it? Dude is doing really well now. His girlfriend stuck with him through the whole thing and they're married now. There's actually a documentary on Showtime about it that just came out. This happened after I graduated, but a student attacked another student with a frying pan. A pre-planned attack. Edit. Thanks for the gold. There was one kid who was caught. Not once. Not twice. Not even thrice. But 4 times masturbating to horse PRN at school. An English teacher would make out with a student during his planning period while his wife was teaching classes next door. After school, he would make excuses to his wife about having to stay late at school and meet the student at hotel rooms. He was led out of the school in handcuffs in front of the entire school. Funny enough, the cops gave him the opportunity to go out the back door of the school and not make a scene, but he refused. I actually witnessed this. So 2 students with mental disabilities went to the toilet together. Exactly what you think happened. The teachers forced the door open to stop them. End result of this: the parents of both students each argued that neither had the capacity to give consent. Both students were sent to court on RP charges against each other. Of course it was their parents' choice to do this. Charges were dismissed in the end though. But that was one hell of a month for everyone in the know. One of the girls were ducking the IT admin. She was 16-17 when that started. Heard an update from an old classmate nearly 20 years later, and not only have they stayed together, they're married, got 3 kids and live the upper middle class suburban dream life. Students got caught ducking behind the theater by the vice principal. He went on the PA system to remind all students to refrain from doing anything inappropriate while at school or in the theater room. You could hear the entire school erupt in ducking laughter. No one knew who it was though. Girls track coach gave members of the girls track team rides home and massages. Got escorted out of the school in cuffs one day. Our science teacher was a PRN star in a past life. Someone in the school found a video she was in his dad's PRN stash. It was a huge scandal in our conservative town. She was let go, which sucked because she was really an excellent teacher. It became a national news story. She was on Dr. Phil about it. Despite numerous campaigns by the students, she was never hired back. Kids had sex on a bus. Led to a lot of news beyond our immediate area. A girl from my HS sucked Lil Pump's DCK on IG Live. A teacher who was always suspected of having inappropriate relationships with students managed to get on the wrong plane with a student during the senior trip. They ended up in Greece when everyone else was in Italy. 9 months later she had a baby but didn't tell anyone who the father was. Not even a scandal. Just a widely accepted rumor. English teacher was purported to select one male per senior class to try and woo and sleep with. My friend claimed his older brother was that year's selection, prodding him to strive to do the same. Unfortunately for him, another, uninterested, but he actually was. Resulting in her petting his arm, giggling at his jokes, bending over in front of him, etc. Somebody pooped in a Pringles can and hid it in the bathroom. One of the PE teachers was very not secretly in a relationship with one of the upper 6th girls, US senior. Close bracket. The day after she left school he left his missus and he and the girl shacked up and later married. Last I looked they were still happily married with a couple of kids. Let's see. The greasy hair comb over principal was banging the young counselor during school in the office. Forgot to close the blinds. Was seen by half the school. And his wife who was a PE teacher. My high school friend who got pregnant who was propositioned by the football coach as it doesn't matter now you're already knocked up. The soccer coach was sleeping with 4 of the soccer players, 16-18 years old. 2 of them being other teachers' daughters. They had it completely secret until his wife found a journal where wrote about each time he slept with each girl on the team. At the end of the school day we walked out and there was 4-5 cop cars and they were walking him out of his building in cuffs. If I remember correctly the girls didn't have to come back to school for the rest of the school year. It was close to the end anyway. Everyone found out their names pretty quickly. Biggest scandal at that school in decades. Our history teacher made multiple sexual remarks to a female classmate. One time he pulled her shirt up because her cleavage was distracting. He retired not long after that. Long story short. A student was caught having sex with a sheep at the tiny farm the school ran for the agricultural elective students. Edit. So. Since it's been asked a few times. The only slightly longer part of the story was that the class was, as stated, an agriculture elective. Once a student had completed enough required worksheets, they got to go over to the farm and do some work instead of sitting in class writing. Not exactly easy. But it was nice when the weather was cool. This guy had the class for both morning sessions. So he said he'd just stay over at the farm and get a ride back at the end of the next class. Well, amongst other incidents, he was not the brightest bulb in the box. Seems he lost track of time and the next class came walking up to the barn with him balls deep in the sheep. Word was, the sheep didn't seem to notice. That's bad. 2 students coordinated jerking off in English class. Who won? My homeroom teacher in 6th grade was caught having sex with a 12th grader. A kid apparently jacked off in the back of the class. Someone apparently got it on their phone. Cops came. Person who recorded it got charged. He sat where I did. But in a different class period. So I switched my chair for a new, less nutty chair. Turns out, every other class before me had also switched the chair. So we couldn't find the nut chair. We even made black lights with our phones to look for the chair. It was great. Someone put gear oil in the machine shop teacher's coffee. Damn near killed him. Not all. But someone took a huge tea in one of the bathroom sinks. Very much abnormally large. Especially given that it was in a sink. It was basically a mountain of tea and at the very top someone put a perfectly ripe strawberry. Girl had a video spread of her letting her dog screw her. An English teacher had sex with a student as soon as she turned 18 and she went on to become a Victoria's Secret model. He had a reputation for doing so every few years. He only got fired last year. A student was having sex with many girls in the gym locker room or music practice rooms. This was discovered due to an explosion in STD rates. I don't recall if it was chlamydia or gonorrhea. Yuck. This was a year or 2 after I graduated. But there was this one teacher at my high school who was fired for, in no particular order of weirdness, buying booze for students, smoking weed with students, buying weed for students, buying weed from students, writing a paper for a student for a different class in exchange for weed, driving certain students who skipped school to a bar in a different city several hours away, sending a student a completely unsolicited text that said, "I've never wanted to cheat with anyone in my life," But I want to with you. Offering to buy a student a $500 knife and give it to him at school. Explaining it thus. If I can walk around campus with marijuana on me, you can walk around with a shipping box with a knife in it. Kiddo. You can't walk around campus with marijuana on you. She was the scripture teacher. That position at that school, at least when I was there, was as cursed as the defense against the dark arts job at Hogwarts. We had a football coach ducking one of the cheerleaders. I was so blind to it all. He was my positional coaches and I had respect for him, so I never believed it. He never talked about it and I was friends with that cheerleader and she always denied it. 2 years after graduation they got married because she was already pregnant with their second child. She dropped out of college her first semester and became a stay-at-home mom. Her Facebook page now is just really sad. It has been almost 16 years since we graduated and she still seems miserable. All her dreams just vanished and she is still married to that coach who is getting older and fatter. He is over 60 and she is in her 30s. If PRN had realistic endings. I've worked enough divorce and dramatic civil type cases to know that hot, risky sex ends like this 99% of the time. Eventually whatever was making it risky passes and then it's just sex with someone. And if that was the only thing bringing two people together, congratulations, you former daredevils, on your lukewarm mediocre relationship. There was this younger, smockin' hot female teacher at my high school. Her BF was on The Real World. And she did a visit on the show wearing a super skimpy bikini and talking about her BFS DCK. Everyone had already had a crush on her, but this pushed it over the edge. Used to run into our IT tech at illegal raves doing coke a fair bit. To be 16 again. Someone's tea on the toilet cover and masturbated over a picture of our English teacher. In the same sitting? My biology teacher was having sex with a sophomore. It became a personal problem for me because I wanted to take AP Bio the next year. And I needed a recommendation from my current teacher to take the class. I asked the AP instructor if I should go to the state penitentiary to get my letter. Edit. That requirement was waived for me. But I'm okay saying terrible things about the ordeal instead. I went to a charter school in PA. The founder stole hundreds of thousands of dollars from the school district and used it for himself. In the back of the school, he built an apartment with a stripper pole, but it was hidden in the school. You could only get to it through one door hidden in a closet. He was eventually caught stealing money and he committed suicide. One of our history teachers had been a stripper before becoming a teacher. This was years earlier. She was a stripper before she even went to college to get her teaching degree. We found out about this because the father of one of my classmates had been a regular customer of hers and recognized her at a student-teacher conference. He told his son, who obviously told the entire school. Who the duck tells their son, yeah, your teacher is a stripper? I used to see a lot. My first day of 9th grade, a senior took a hit of acid. Took his clothes off, ran around naked yelling, "I want to see everyone. I want to see everyone." He was finally chilled out and they got a robe on him. Called his folks. Maybe he was suspended. Same him a few weeks later. 3 years after that he came to our house to install cable TV. My dad always kept some cheap beer around for service people and the like. I gave him and his co-worker and said we didn't have any LSD. He laughed his ass off and said, "That's probably a good thing." We had a charity thing in high school where you'd raise money for cancer. The amount being raised was shown on a thermometer and every limit would force a teacher to shave their head. On the very top was this French teacher. Anyways, the initiative was due to finish after lunch recess. A bunch of people are in gym shaving their heads and trying to raise money. Bills are flying down from the bleachers and we raised just enough money right at the bell. The French teacher was not down and ran away, causing all the students to chase her into the bathroom, banging on the door and shitty. She soon after had a bit of a mental breakdown. Someone at school found out her Lava Life profile and she left. Also, some student stole all the money raised in the initiative from the gym. In the auditorium there was this obvious hole in the wall, and when I say hole I mean like a 10 foot by 10 feet square, but it was way up by the roof and back behind the stage curtains. One day my friend said she saw the janitor climbing down from it on a ladder, and she saw where he put the ladder. After school we went back there, and sure enough she went straight to the ladder. We climbed up to the hole, and there was a pretty big ledge in the hole with a twin-sized mattress covered in stains and a rack of old Playboys and shit. I was very concerned about the janitor after this. All these pedophile teacher stories, and all my high school did was start a rumor a girl named Janie didn't have a butthole. A few years ago I had the TV on in the background with a true crime show going. Wasn't paying much attention to it until I heard the line, "There wasn't much else for high school kids to do in wife's hometown." During year wife would have been in high school. Started paying attention, and it's covering some kind of sex ring that ended with the murder of one of the participants. Brought it up with my wife and she was like, "What? I don't remember." Oh. Right. That incident. A student routinely masturbated in the gender-neutral bathroom without cleaning up after himself, and when people found out they started leaving post-it notes that read "Nut Free Zone." Our principal had to address the entire school about it. Edit. I'm in no way saying this was a problem with the bathrooms themselves, but it was 100% a problem because of that individual. Girl 1 sends nudes to girl 2's boyfriend. This is totally ducked up. 2 senior boys pinned a younger kid down on a pool table, pulled his shorts down and hammered a giant glue stick up his ass with a hockey stick. Needless to say, there were a few expulsions. Only expulsions. In what country did this take place? I'd expect jail time for sexual assault. We had this kid who was super pissed about his ex-girlfriend getting with a new guy, so decided he was going to kill the new guy right in front of her. Their class was all lined up outside for gym, and he walks up to the guy, goes to pull the gun out of his pants, accidentally hit the trigger, and shoots himself in the DCK and through his thigh. He ran just far enough to collapse on my English teacher's doorstep. He survived. Edit. I'm sorry folks. I honestly do not know the fate of the penis. I just remember all the parents and teachers being so concerned about the students who know a school shooting. And we were all just, what kind of ducking idiot shoots themselves in the DCK? Full stop. The lesson here is that if you don't get over your ex, you will lose penis privilege. My statistics teacher got fired when he accidentally turned on the projector to show his Mac screen to the whole class and a PRN site was opened. Whoa. What were the odds? A couple ducked in the bathroom before an assembly, and one of the teachers heard. He subtly mentioned it later at the assembly just to find out whose faces got red. They were suspended. My friend grabbed my phone and sent a penis to the prom chat. A bunch of football players went to town on a girl in the auditorium. That was the rumor anyway. The other NSFW scandal is a guy found out his girlfriend was pregnant, so he decided to solve this by tying her to a chair and beating her to death with a bat. I wish that was a rumor. New question. Teachers of Reddit. How hard is it to not duck the students? Former high school teacher here. I've never ducked any of my students, but I got my job because my predecessor allegedly did. I get ducked over enough by my district. My math teacher literally woke up one day, murdered his wife, arranged things so it looked like a suicide, emptied her bank account and went on to have a normal teaching day at school. We even had a mass Catholic school for her weeks later, and he faked grief through it all. I think this happened right after I graduated, but I was still friends and neighbors with the PE teacher. One day while changing, one of the students thought it would be funny to tea in his own hand, carry it into the gym, and throw it at his friend who had already changed and was waiting for class to start. The teacher was too shocked to do anything at first, but it splattered off the other kid's shirt and then that kid started projectile vomiting. It started a chain reaction, and multiple students started dry heaving and then puking onto the gym floor. Running out. The gym was closed down for like 2 weeks and had to be repainted. The hardwood floors refinished. The kid who carried out the shitty fest received no punishment from the school and the teacher moved to a different school the next year. Also, the wrestling coach got arrested for possession of child pornography and inappropriate behavior with a few students. 2 girls were caught having fun in the women bathroom. Playing Bop It. Phones got banned because a couple had sex at school and they filmed it with their phones. A girl gave oral sex to 2 guys. Nothing too crazy, right? Know those announcements in front of the school? There was an open mic and we'd get updates on the chess team, sports, etc. Some ass went up and said in front of 500 plus people, "I just wanted to congratulate Lindsay on winning the 2-on-1 basketball tournament." The initial salvo sailed over the admin's heads but they figured it out. I have to. When I was in a private school, there was a big scandal about a senior student having sex with a teacher and she got pregnant. He was an amazing volleyball player and had full scholarship. He lost all of it. Then when I changed schools to a public one, a senior apparently arped a 10th grade student. Eater. One of my ex-classmates remembered the case and told me that he was already 18. Though they started having sex earlier. By the time she was pregnant he was 18. I assume it was between April-May of that year. The music teacher was having an affair with another teacher. I think from the language department. His wife found out and he got kicked out. Rumor has it he ended up living in the back of the music room for a few months. Another teacher was on her period and tried to smear her blood on the science desks, which were slightly higher than your waist. Seemed strange. But later she got arrested for doing coke. A guy sitting his exam needed a PSS. But instead of asking to be excused, he thought the best course of action was to have a wank. Another student brought in wine and got drunk before our first lesson. This kid titty ducked this girl in the quad after giving her way too much. She had a seizure during the whole thing. Was awful. One day we all came to school and the front office, which was surrounded by glass, was shattered and we all just assumed some asshole vandalizing the school. A couple of weeks later, the police came and arrested our principal and one of the vice principals. No one knew why. Turns out that one of our other vice principals, super young dude maybe early 30s, had fingered made out with a girl in my class, seniors, was 17. Who was also the daughter of the varsity football coach. She was dating my friend's older brother, straight degenerate druggie, and the older brother found out and came and threw a rock at the glass building. Our principal and vice principal knew and covered it up, so they got arrested. Eventually the guilt VP was charged and sentenced to a couple of years in San Quentin. He now has a YouTube channel and came out with a book about his time in prison. Couple of months in SQ.